This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by esteemed trainer Manny Robles over Zoom. Manny, first and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
No, as I say, I appreciate you giving up some time. It's been a while since I last saw you. I last saw you is in Saudi Arabia. So since then, how's life been?
Been pretty good. Trying to keep myself busy, considering the situation with with everything that we're going through with the coronavirus. But just trying to stay positive. Trying to hang in there and just take it one day at a time.
I've spoken to a few fighters now who are based in America, and they've told me that different states have different rules and guidelines of how they can approach normal day life or everyday life around lockdown or the coronavirus. What's it like in California?
It's been pretty tough. Everybody, we're trying to obey the law, obviously, and do what the authorities tell us to do, which is to stay home. But things are starting to get back to normal slowly, little by little. Like I said, I'm back in the gym now. I was in the gym, but I was only at the gym like every other day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Now I'm in the gym every day now. I just have my guys, trying to get all my guys back in the gym again, little by little. But I still try to take the necessary precautions and then just spread them out throughout the day and not have everybody there at the same time and not have too many visitors at the gym, friends and family and whatnot. Just the people that need to be there, period.
So how are you working around, the lockdown situation at the minute? Who are you training and how are you training? Is it more one-to-one work? Are you doing group sessions?
No, I get a couple guys in, maybe 3-4 guys at a time. You know what I mean? Yeah. The gym is big enough to keep everybody separated. Working with Mares right now, with Abner Mares and Oscar Negrete back in the gym. Let me see. A bunch of guys, Brandon Valdez, Anthony Herrera, Anthony Garnica, Saul Bustos, Chris Zavala, just a bunch of guys, amateurs, pros, I have a few fights lined up for June. I got a couple fights lined up for June. I got another couple fights lined up for July already. So we're starting to get the ball rolling again.
Obviously, over in the UK, the boxing board of control over here, they've given some guidelines for when shows can return behind closed doors. What kind of guidelines have you been given for when shows will return in the US?
Well, apparently they're being pretty strict about it now. From what I know, from what I understand, is only 2 people are able to work the corner. Apparently, so it'll be myself and another assistant. There won't be 3 or 4 people in the corner. Apparently we're gonna get tested for the coronavirus the day of the weigh-in, and once we do, we got to stay locked in our hotel rooms and not be able to come out of those hotel rooms until after the fight, and then maybe get tested again. I don't know. But some pretty strict guidelines.
Obviously, we'll come on to some of your fighters in a bit, but something I've always kind of wanted to ask you about, and I've never really had a chance to, because when we've spoken, it's always been at press events, and I know it's very hectic, and you've got a lot of people that want to talk to you, is your work with the US national amateur team. Talk to me about that, reflect upon your time, and just explain to me the work and the role that you had back then.
No, it was great. It was a great experience working with Team USA. I was able to travel to the World Championships in 2011, and I had the privilege to see in Baku, Azerbaijan. I had the privilege to meet and to see Anthony Joshua for the first time, and he won he won a silver medal at the Worlds, and I was able to. He actually, in my opinion, he won the finals. But you're fighting the hometown fighter. You're not gonna get the decision. So he won a silver medal, and great guy, by the way. Had the honor of meeting him for the first time. A great individual, great person, great human being, great fighter, and work with the likes of Rashid Warren, among others that were part of the Team USA. Errol Spence, Joseph Diaz, and they're all world champions now. So Jose Ramirez and so forth and so on. So it was a great experience, you know, a great experience working with such all of that talent, and to see them now move on into the professional ranks. And like I said, some of them are world champions now. It's incredible, you know. It's how far you can go from being an amateur to becoming an Olympian, and then eventually you become a world champion. It's great.
You just mentioned some names there that you'd worked with, the likes of Errol Spence, Joseph Diaz, amongst others. Whenever, you know, amateurs who have achieved a lot in the amateur scene turn over to become professionals, there's always a lot of expectation around them to go on to succeed. What is it about those guys that you think in particular made them or has made them such successful professionals as well?
Well, first of all, to make it to Team USA is no easy task. So that, as amateurs, that shows you their dedication and discipline, just to be able to make the team and make the Olympics, for that matter, right? I mean, that's huge. It's a huge honor. It's a huge responsibility. And then along the way, if you're able to medal and win a medal at the Olympics, or, you know, any international tournament, that's always a plus, you know. And so I think their dedication, I think their discipline. And you take that from being an amateur into the pros, and they know what it takes to get there, obviously, and not now, you know, knowing that they're professional fighters, and continue to work, continue to grow as as professional fighters. And, you know, the great kids, man. I had a great experience, as I said, and most of these kids are well-rounded kids. They're humble, you know, they're hardworking, and they know what they want, you know. They got goals to set.
I remember I've read somewhere that you also did some work with Jamel Herring. Obviously, Jamel's got a brilliant backstory. What was he like to work with?
He's awesome, man. He's a fantastic kid. You know, every single one of those kids is great. But to see Jamel Herring make it this far and now be a world champion, he's a great kid, and he deserves it, because he's an extremely hardworking kid. We go way back, and I have nothing but love for Jamel, and we still, you know, touch bases every now and then through social media, whenever I see him at the fights. And you know, it's something that you grow a bond, you create a bond with these kids, that bond that lasts forever, you know. And we've pretty much come up together. Me as a coach, you know, from being an amateur coach and the professional ranks now, and then for me to see him become a world champion, as I said, it's incredible. And I congratulate him for all his success.
How key do you think starting off as an amateur coach was to your progression into the professional ranks? How much of a grounding do you feel that it gave you to be able to build up the name that you have today?
It was, you know, I come from the amateur ranks. You know, I come working with my amateur fighters, and, you know, thanks to my fighters back then, they were the ones that helped me build a name for myself in the amateur ranks, that eventually got me to working with you know, the World Series of Boxing back then, and with the alley Matadors, and then eventually work with the All-American heavyweights, Mr. Michael King, and then that led to the Team USA and so forth and so on. But prior to that, I've been involved in boxing for a very long time. I want to say about 40 years now. You know, I'm not telling you my age, but I've been in boxing for a very long time. As an amateur fighter myself, and eventually as a professional fighter. But the one that set the tone for me was my father, my dad. He's my teacher. He's my mentor, my best friend. My dad passed away about 13 years ago or so. And but he's the one. If it wasn't for my dad, I wouldn't be in this sport, you know. And so it was him. And then eventually, as after the pros, he took me under his wing and introduced me to boxing, but now as a coach, not as a fighter. And I was his assistant coach. You know, worked with several world champions back then under his wing. Obviously, all the credit goes towards my father, because he was the head coach. I was his assistant coach. And then, you know, my dad passed away. So it's like when my dad passed away, it's like me starting all over again, because I lost my dad. So when I lost my dad, we pretty much lost everything that I had with my dad. had to start all over again, and started from the amateur, started from the ground up, and here I am.
It's a great story. What was it like working with your father? I always ask fighters who were trained by their father as well, you know, what's the working dynamic like of their relationship? What was it like with you and your father? What was it like to work together?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he was harder on me than he was on the boxers. Isn't every father,
Yeah.
you know, always tough or hard on their kids? Yeah. So my dad was tough on me. My dad was very tough. I honestly can, I'm telling you, my dad was tougher on me than he was on the boxers, you know, and I guess he expected more from me way back then. And we had our share of world champions, you know, Martin Castillo was one of them, Enrique Sanchez, Israel Vasquez, Mike Anchondo. We had a great stable. Reggie Johnson, which was a two-time world champion, middleweight and light heavyweight champion with my dad, and again myself as an assistant coach. So we had a great thing going. We had a great chemistry. You know, it's tough on me, man. As tough as nails. But that's you know, that's how I've been able to, you know, grow thick skin in this sport. You know, you got a lot of ups and downs. You know, take the fight to take this back to take this back to June 1st, the fight with Joshua and Andi Ruiz. You know, when we shocked the world. That was a very emotional moment for me because it wasn't because of my father. You know, everything that we, you know, I knew my dad was watching. You know, I knew my dad was there with me before the fight, after the fight. So, you know, that is like meant the world to me because, again, if it wasn't for my dad, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here today.
No, 100%. That was obviously a great story, and we'll come on to that later on. But I want to start working through your current fighters. You know, you mentioned Brandon Valdez, and I know whenever you do interviews, you speak so highly of him. You see so much potential in him. What is it that for you in particular sticks out about the future that lies ahead for him?
Yeah, I'm excited about this kid. 21 years old. What is he, about 14-0 now? And I'm excited about him because I watched them develop, kind of like you would an amateur fighter. Watch them. I've been able to see him develop in the professional field, and he's a ghetto kid. You know, he comes from the slums of Colombia, and that's tough, man. Growing up in the streets in Colombia, and he's come from nothing. And I remember the first day he came to America, and kid, you know, had nothing, and then to see him grow, to see him develop as a fighter, but he still continues to be the same person at heart. You know what I mean? To be humble, to be coachable, to want to learn and get better. And I just see him now, his progression, boxing wise, from when he first came to America. Again, as I said, my first fight with him as a pro until to this level, I'm really pleased with what I've been able to see. And, you know, sky's the limit. I told the kid, man, that, you know, you got the potential to become a world champion, but just stick with the program, stay disciplined, stay humble, and you're gonna get to some. You're gonna get far. You know, you're gonna get your crack at a world title, and, you know, take advantage of it and hopefully win a title fight.
How do you see his career progressing over the next year or so? How far away from fighting for certain titles do you feel he is?
He's got a big test coming up. I don't remember the name of the opponent, but he's an undefeated Dominican boxer. Great record, great knockout ratio. So that's gonna be a big fight for us. It's probably on Box right now. So if you look him up, Brandon Valdez will be able to see the opponent's name. I just don't remember his name, but I know it's a tough fight, and that's what we're getting him ready for. We're getting him ready for a big fight in July, and I like where he's at right now. I like his attitude. I like demeanor, progression, so forth, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see him get in the ring and show the world what he's capable of doing.
When you have such a raw talent and somebody who you know has so much ability and potential to go so far in the sport, how do you go about kind of keeping him level-headed, ensuring that he doesn't get ahead of himself and start to think that he's made it before he has?
Yeah, because he's had plenty of examples in the gym, and that's why I've told my kids. And then you lead by example as well. You know, I mean, we dictate the tempo in the gym. We as coaches, it's our responsibility to make sure that everybody stays in their lane. Everybody's grounded. Everybody knows who they are and where they're heading. You know, to me, that's very important. You know, like I said, we as coaches set the example in the gym, and they and you know, boxers follow. They see that. So our behavior as coaches is very important, and they feed off of that. And I think that's the reason why you know, someone like Brandon or some of my other guys are able to stay level-headed and not allow things to get to themselves.
Moving on from Brandon and on to Abner Mares, you mentioned, you know, he's back training now. A former world champion, obviously, he's fought for other world titles as well.
Yeah.
What do you still see in Abner? What do you still see that potential for him to go and to win another world title?
Yeah, you know what I see in Abner is somebody that it's, you know, it's been a couple of months now since we've been working, and I see someone that I discovered someone that's starting to get that spark back.
Yeah.
You know, he's willing to learn, he's willing to get better. He's not he doesn't, again, as I said, he's not you lead by example, and you come into my gym. You don't come in with an attitude. You don't come in thinking, okay, I'm a 4-time world champion in 3 different weight classes. I'm an Olympian. I have nothing to prove. No, it's not about that. It's you leave that at home, and you come to the gym, and you humble yourself, and you got to come in wanting to learn, wanting to get better, because you never stop learning in this game. You never stop growing. And I like his attitude. I like where he's at right now. And you feel that, and you feel the energy. You know, you feel the vibe, and you feel the excitement. I feel his excitement. I see his excitement of him getting back in the gym and wanting to get another crack at another title.
Obviously, it's more than 2 years since his last fight with Leo Santa Cruz. Do you feel by the time that he does get back in the ring, we will see that time away is kind of caught up with him? He might be ring rusty.
Yeah. Well, look. I personally would like to see him get a couple fights before we you know, get a couple tuna fights, if you will. There's no such thing as there's no such thing as an easy fight, but I like to see him get a couple fights before we get an opportunity to fight for something big. If that's a world title or a big name, then great. But I would like to see him get a couple fights before we get there. You know, everybody, you know, right now, you know, there's a couple names, a couple fighters out there that are calling him out because he has a name.
Yeah.
You know, he has a reputation that he's built, and so I feel that they're calling him out because, you know, they want to use his name, if you will. But which is fine. You know, fighters call each other all the time. I don't have anything to do with that. My job is to get them ready. But again, as I said, before we fight a big fight, I like to see him get a couple tuna fights.
What weight do you see Abner coming back at?
He's looking to fight at 130. Yeah. But I that's fine. You know, no more than 130. Nothing over 130. Not a pound over. Yeah. If it's 130, it could be 126, depending on what's on the table. You know what I mean? I'm sure you can make 126, and if there's a big fight to be made, or 130. But like I said, no more than that. No more than featherweight or super featherweight.
Tyrell Mitchell as well, another name that I see you speaking very highly of. Super welterweight contender, lost in his only world title bout against Erislandy Lara, and he drew last time out against Austin Trout. What do you make of Tyrell's career today?
Well, first of all, with the Erislandy Lara fight, that was a great learning experience for him. It was. I always say you learn more from your defeats than you do from your wins. So that was a great learning experience. We all learned from it. He's a better fighter now. You know, you mentioned Austin Trout. That to me, there we go. Yeah. That to me was not a draw. To me, we won that fight clearly in convincing fashion. And we just gotta, you know, it's the judges. So, you know, we got an unfortunate break from the judges, and they called it a draw. But to me, that was a win. And I have great expectations for Tyrell this year. Hopefully, I believe that Tyrell has everything to become a world champion. He can give anybody a run for their money. Anybody that's a world champion at either at the super welterweight division or the middleweight division, I'm sure that he can, give anybody a fight.
That super welterweight division in particular, that's kind of open. Nobody's really put their stamp on it over the last couple of years. Belts have changed hands between numerous fighters. Who do you think is the number one in that division? Who do you think would be the toughest test for Tyrell if he was to get the opportunity to play?
Well, any of the Charlos, of course, they're both great fighters, great champions. So any of the Charlos would be good. That's Erickson Lubin. That's he's a person that's been calling out Tyrell for quite some time now. They were gonna fight, but Tyrell unfortunately he hurt his hand in the gym in a fight actually with Trout. He hurt his hand in the fight, and he wasn't able to recover. He wasn't able to recuperate. And I was trying to get it. We did the best we could to get ready for the Erickson Lubin fight, but it just he re-injured his hand during training, and he needed surgery. He had surgery, and now he's fine, so he's ready to go. So if they want to make the fight again versus Lubin, by all means, let's do it. I mean, there's no problem there. I mean, the problem has already been taken care of, so that could be another possible good fight. Maybe title eliminator, so the winner might get a chance to fight for the world title.
Obviously, you've got your son as well. How's your son doing, Manny Robles the third?
He's good. He's made me a grandfather now. I have a granddaughter, and a beautiful granddaughter with this girl now. He has taken care of his family and so forth. So yeah, things are good.
What's his plans this year? Obviously, look, I know last time out he was unsuccessful against Kanju. Yeah. What's his plans for his boxing now?
I don't know. I mean, at this point, I think he's taking a little, some time off, and he's gonna have to really think about what he wants to do. I always tell my particularly my son, boxing isn't everything. So you gotta have a backup plan. This isn't forever. Boxers can't fight forever, and so if he chooses to continue to box, he's gotta do it 100. And if not, then that's fine too. As a father, first as a father, then as a coach, well, that's different. But as a father, I want to see him do well, and I just want to see him, do good. Whether it's boxing or not, I just want him to be okay.
For that Kanju fight, I saw that obviously he agreed with yourself for Rudy to be his head corner man, or what you want to call it, on the night. Uh-huh. How difficult or easy a decision was that for you both to agree on?
Because again, it goes back to being a father. That's one thing about, there's a lot of coaches out there that coach their kids. A lot of father-son relationships in boxing, in amateur pros, as you know. But sometimes, you got to do what's best for your son. You can't do what's best for you. You have to stop and think about, what's best for your boxer. First of all, what's best for your son. And sometimes what's best is letting them go. What's best is letting someone else take over, because you want what's best for him. It's not about you. I already lived my life. I have something going on as a coach or whatever else that might be, But sometimes, you just got to learn to let go. Again, going back to what I said, it's not about you any longer. It's about your kid. It's about your boxer.
Obviously, with Kanju, what was your reflections on it when you was there, when you were watching the fight? And since then, I'm sure you've watched it many times since. Yeah. What are your thoughts on your son's performance against him?
It was tough. It was tough because, like you said, I wasn't his coach. I wasn't his corner. I didn't work the corner. I sat in the corner, but I wasn't working the corner. So obviously, I wasn't able to coach or, pretty much, do anything. Playing the part of the manager, if you will. And he fought a great fight. I'm proud of my son. He did the best he could. Zucan is a great fighter, great champion. He's turning into a better fighter now, I believe. And like I said, he did the best he could, and that's all you can ask from any of your boxers. It's all I can ask from him, really. And so, there was a loss, but again, you learn more from your defeats than you do from your wins. So I'm sure that was a great learning experience for him.
Kanju and Josh Warrington were close to agreeing and announcing their fight post-lockdown. What are your thoughts if that does go ahead? If them two meet, how do you think it would play out in the unification bout?
It'd be a great fight. It'd be a great fight because Zoo, he's got a great chin, and he throws punches like from beginning to end. He doesn't stop working. He's very consistent. And on the other hand, you got somebody like Josh Warrington that not a big puncher, but he definitely, he's a great boxer. He's quick, he's fast, he's durable, he's consistent, he can box, he can get down and throw, get down and dirty, and get in the pocket and go to work. So yeah, be a great fight.
Let's move on to heavyweight. Charles Martin. How's Charles?
Yep. He's great. Just won the title eliminator. Trying to get him back in the gym now, again, as I said, with the coronavirus situation, it's not that simple. And then he lives out of state. He lives in Nevada. He lives in Vegas. So, hopefully soon, hopefully within the next month, we'll be able to get him back on track, back in the gym, and hopefully get at least one more fight before the end of the year. But he's won the title eliminator, so we got to sit back and wait for the winner of Anthony Joshua, and got to help me with the rest. Yep, and then we'll get the winner, hopefully the winner of that, and do it again.